Hey, there's this thing that I want to do with my timeline, and I wanted to share it with the world. Um, I haven't even thought about what I'd label this video, but I want to plug it into my timeline. I want to create a mathematical equation. Um, it's about it's unifying, integrating reincarnation with scientific evolution. There's an argument between reincarnation and scientific evolution. I mean, and well, I guess, but mainly it's reincarnation versus intelligent design, and it's intelligent design versus a reincarnation, and all that kind of stuff. So let's just, and instead of either or, let's do both and. Um, and so I always believe in reincarnation, and I know a lot of people believe in reincarnation. If you plug it in, then you're like, then you would, and then if you would believe that your soul is actually born on planet Earth, that means that you're the soul which was born, came along with the Earth, with the very earliest cellular organism, and and then you evolved into a human. So if you want to know how many times it takes to do certain things in order to become a human, you just look into history. So you would just get a single cell, like whenever, life starts, single cell organism, and then you do its lifespan, and then it dies. It would then reincarnate as another single cell organism. So you would just take all of the single cell organisms' lifespans and stack them on top of each other until that single cell organism gets replaced or gets upgraded by the first new one. So then you upgrade. And then you take all the lifespans together of the next one and then upgrade, and on and on and on and on until new species come until you're human. So then you tally up all of the different things that they do, and you just put them into simple, list of maybe a couple dozen things, interactions, all the different kinds of interactions: eating, pooping, peeing, fighting, sex, children, and all the communication. And you just categorize that, and then you just tally them up. So then by the time you're a human, you go, okay, so how many times has a human communicated with somebody? And then you would just tally it up from the beginning. And most people would think that is very impossible to do, but it's just simple math, simple arithmetic. And so you're just taking one example, life form, all the way to human. There's lots of quotes, I think there was a Buddhist quote that said, your chances of being born a human is greater than, or is less than, a turtle floating around in the ocean and randomly coming up to the surface for air and popping its head through the circle of a lifesaver. And I would interpret that as, maybe if you were to compare it with all the other animals that are alive today, if you were to randomly be born as a human. But I don't believe that, because you have to live the entire lifespan of a organism in order to be a human, because most of the lifespans in human, aren't human. It's the small majority or small percentage. Maybe you could, and then divide it up into first and third world countries. Gets a little bit complicated. Like, I don't know, you could get borderline racist, because if you say that somebody's in a third world country, that means you're a younger soul. But third world countries happen to be dark skinned, so that would mean that being dark skinned means you're a younger soul, and you just have to make all kinds of. You'd have to explain everything. For example, the rules change as future goes on. So these are just rules These are just kind of like general rules, but you can always have exceptions, you know. Everybody knows that you can be a dick and live in a first world country and be a nice person living in a third world country. So maybe you would give a certain percentage of bleed through for all of the different socioeconomic, groups and yeah, just do a little equation on top of equation. But and then and yeah, maybe even kind of set a rule to it, like uh, if if I mean, you would know how many times you have to kill something because you would count all the times that you killed something as an animal coming up and eat something and yeah. So then anyway, you can come up. See, it gets complicated. I haven't built it yet, so it gets complicated to explain. But you could come up with the explanation of everything and answer all the questions that way. Only all the crazy out there esoteric questions, but in a scientific way. If you just plug in the evolution into it and um, and I mean, it doesn't really explain how there's that many more single cell organisms and stuff on the earth than there are humans now. So maybe you could come up with a rule that says it takes lots of souls for single cellular organisms and basic animals to turn into the soul of a human. So then you could come up with another a science like mathematical equation to explain that too. It's something it's hard to explain until you build it, but you just build it. You just build it on top of it, one thing on top of the other, and one thing on top of the other, and then just come up with the mathematical equation, and you can answer everything. When they invented Christianity and they had all their Catholic councils, like the Council of Nicaea was the first one, and then they have them on a regular basis, and they used to ask all sorts of crazy questions. I want to read up on what they said in those. Maybe if there's like put the original books on. I don't think I ever did that. But they had crazy, like one of the famous wild and wacky questions they had was how many angels can you fit on the tip of a needle, and maybe you could even explain that scientifically if you plug it into science, like biology, actually mainstream science. Like the smallest a soul can be is the size of the smallest living organism, and so how many living organisms can you put on the head of a needle, and then boom, there you go, you answer the question. So yeah, that'd be fun to get into all of the crazy questions, like every single one that they've asked, and all those Christian councils, and then all the Buddhist councils, because they answer the more questions about reincarnation than the Christians do, and then just go in one by one and plug it into the biology and like mainstream science, and then answer the questions that way and explain how you answer the question. And then maybe you could gain insights into the future just based on those same equations. Yeah, and just turn it into equation after equation. So, anyways, that's the very best job that I can do explaining. I'm kind of high. I just smoked like most of a joint my roommate gave me. But yeah, I think you can do it, and it just integrates everything, and it'll help everything. Help you remember everything. In another video, I was talking about the mind castle, the mind palace, the technique to remember stuff by connecting things together, and that's just another thing to connect. So I don't think I did this video before, but anyways, that's a totally out there video. Maybe you'll have to watch it again in order to understand what I'm saying. Okay, peace out.